Move my hair.
Hello, everyone. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and for joining us today. Welcome back to Lessons Beyond the Stethoscope. Here we provide you with the practical health tips and tools that you need that is going to be able to help you with your life. Because what we understand is that your life overall affects your health. Today is episode 11, and I'm excited about it. I'm always excited about every one of you guys are like, you always excited. But I am because I know that this is one part of your life that is really going to affect your health. And it is episode 11, self love, self care, and intimacy, the importance of mental health in achieving your relationship goals. Now, today we have joining us dear friend of mine. She is excellent at what she does, and that is Dr. DeAndrea Bass Kerrigan. She is a licensed professional counselor, an advocate, an educator, and a coach. She is a department chair and professor at Central Baptist College. She's also the owner of Driven by Concepts Therapy, and in her private practice, what she does is she helps her clients deal with trauma and life stressors such as burnout, coping issues, family conflict, and even relationship issues. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted her to come in and kind of have these discussions with us. Now, Dr. Kerrigan, she holds a Bachelor of Science from in Health Education from the University of Central Arkansas. She has a Master's of Science in Rehabilitation Counseling from the University of Arkansas at UALR, and a PhD in Human Services with an emphasis in counseling studies, from Capella University. Now, she is doing all the things, but she still makes time and still enjoys in her free time spending quality time with her husband and her two children. So, thank you so much, Dr. Kerrigan, for joining us on today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. So, guys, this is one of the things like self care. Now, I keep hearing this term, and I know Dr. Kerrigan has heard this term as well. And I was thinking, like where have I been? Because I don't recall growing up with the term self care. I was like, maybe people said like here and there or something like that, or take care of yourself, but not necessarily self care. So I was like, well, where have I been or what happened? But what I found out is that during the pandemic, self
Mm.
care and self care routine, the search for it went up 250%. 250% of increase tells me that people are like, this is a lot. A lot is going on. Like people had already had work, they had family, they had like all the things, and then you throw a pandemic in there, and they're like, hold up, wait a wait 1 second. I need to like protect myself. I need to take care of myself. Like, how am I going to do this? And so people start doing things like massages and mani pedis and me time. And I'm here for it. I'm all here for it. But Dr. Kerrigan and I also say, okay, but do you have health care with that? Do you have mental health care in that routine? Because those parts are really essential, because what it does is it helps to make sure that you are doing well from the inside out. And so that way you can fully enjoy your mani pedi and your me time and stuff like that. So Dr. Kerrigan, tell me, what have you seen and how do you approach this when people are saying things like, self-care, and this is kind of how I'm doing it, and like how do you help people kind of navigate that and truly understand the importance of mental health care? Because mental health is health, period. So how did you help them to kind of understand that and help people to understand why this is really an essential part of your self-care routine?
Well, the first thing is, as I explain to people, self care goes beyond the things that you can buy yourself. It has to be something that's, like you said, something that's internal, that starts with mindfulness. Like, what is your body saying to you? Not just, I need to get out of the house, but why? Have you explored the whys of why you
Mm,
feel burnt out? That's the key to all of this. That's actually sitting down, listening to your body. Why are you having headaches? What are you stressed about? What things in your life can you take care of to remove some of those stressors so that the self-care that you actually do is effective? Because you can leave the nail shop and still feel burnt out. Those temporary things don't remove the
Now
need
that is true.
for true self-care.
Right. And you know, one of the things I noticed with mental health too is that you might go in for one thing, like you said, like, okay, doc, people probably come in and talk to you all the time, say, listen, these little people are getting on my nerves. Like, I'm just kind of stressed out. But then you say, but why? And so you go in and you have to do the deeper work and figure out the why. You may step away with like some more answers than what you originally thought was going to happen when you go there.
And what we call in the therapy world is that's a self-assessment. When you go to the doctor and the first thing your doctor start asking you is, so tell me what's going on with you. What is going on with your physical body? Well, on the therapy side, we're asking you self-exploration wise, what is going on with you internally when it comes to your mind? What is it that's causing your mind to be in this, this place of chaos? And sometimes we're in this place of chaos and we don't even know because we're so used to functioning in it. Just because you are surviving it doesn't mean you should have to continue to live that way. And so when you're doing a self-exploration,
hold on, Dr. Kerrigan, say it one more time for the people in the back who didn't hear you. Tell them one more time, because I don't think I heard you. Tell them one more time.
Just because you are surviving it doesn't mean that you should continue to live that way. Sometimes if you stop and I always tell my client, how do you keep up with how well you are doing? When we go to the doctor, guess what you're doing? Well, you're going to pull up all your medical notes and you're going to look at, as long as you've been my doctor, you're going to tell me what was going on with my body. What are we doing in our mind? How are we taking notes about how we are mentally? Are you journaling? Are you putting things in your smartphone? Because we all have smartphones and have notepads. On this day, I struggled with connecting with a coworker, and this is why. Where are you taking mental notes so that you can also look back and see when things were going right? Where was I in life? So again, that self-assessment has to be something that's more than mental. I tell people it has to be intentional. Meaning you have to put forth an action, not just saying, I'm going to do something today. What is the action behind the going? Is my question.
Oh, I love it. That's good. Being intentional. That's one of the things I've been talking to people a lot about lately too, is like, just being intentional. And one of the things I will say, let's say people are saying, okay, she's saying that I should do the work and I'm going to do the work and I am considering going to therapy. However, what you and I both know is that there is a stigma. There is a stigma around people seeking mental health care. And unfortunately, that stigma could even be with healthcare workers. Like I've heard, unfortunately, there have been some people who have expressed things to healthcare workers and they weren't supported in it. They may have said it to their family members and they weren't supported, friends, whatever. So we understand that there is a stigma that kind of can hold people back. They say, oh, you're weak. Right? You can't handle the things. It's you got to just push through, or you have to pray through, or whatever. What do you say when people are at that point? They know they need it, they are considering it, but there's that stigma that's associated with it that may be holding them back from actually seeking the help that they need.
One of the key things I always keep in mind is that you don't have to tell everybody everything. Some things do in silence. And so when you're ready to make moves, don't always look for someone to justify the movements you want to make. And that's the problem. A lot of times, even with culturally, we know that families and, some cultures just don't believe in therapy. I've worked with families who have said, this was the best step that I could have made, but my mom was never for therapy. She always spoke against it, but I needed it. And so what she did it in secret. online platforms. We are living in a world now that technology allows you to do things much more easier. You don't have to worry about driving to the doctor's office and somebody seeing you parked at my office. Guess what? You can talk to me from your room. You could be laying in your bed, sitting at your coffee table, wherever is comfortable for you, but you don't have to disclose to people what you're choosing to do. This is a journey that just you are taking. And so again, it has to be a mindset shift. And so that's pretty much it. It has to be a mindset shift, and that's going to start with the person. Because if you keep waiting on what your mom thinks, you're going to be stuck in the same place.
That I appreciate that in the fact of doing things in secret and kind of keeping it to yourself, and that makes sense. And I like the part too that you said that even, you know what I thought about when people say, well, so and so see me. Well, they were over there too, weren't they? Like I'm you like, what if they see me walking out the
Absolutely.
office? Well, if you walking out, they're walking in, right? So,
Exactly.
so there really shouldn't be any judgment, because if you like, you guys are going to the same place, probably for different reasons, but for the same overall goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate you saying that. Like, listen, you don't have to tell everybody, but then you also have other ways to pursue it. If you're
Mm-hmm.
concerned solely about walking into the door, going to that office, and people seeing you, you can do it from the comfort of your own home. And I love it. And it's a very good way for people to be able to get that. So thank
It's
you
a
for
good
that
start.
tip.
It's definitely a good start. Even when I tell, one of the key things I always tell my individuals who come to me for faith-based counseling is, God said we are all imperfect humans. So regardless of what you're struggling with, somebody else is struggling with something else. It's just that their journey is different from yours. Take the path that's best for you.
Now let's see, we've talked to them about self-care and how they
Mhm.
should implement mental health and healthcare into that routine. And they're saying, okay, I'm going to do it. And now this means that they are loving on themselves. They are feeling great about themselves. But when it comes to practicing this self-love, you truly know how you want to receive love? And if you know how you want to receive it, do you know how to communicate that with someone that you're in a relationship with? So talk to me about, because there's all these different love languages and all these other different things. How can people truly figure out like what the way that they truly like to receive love? Because some people might kind of have an idea of it. Oh, this makes me feel good, or this makes, or whatever, but they may not be able to verbalize that. So what are some of the ways that people can truly express their love languages, and how can they figure that out?
So when I'm working with individuals who come to me for relationship things, whether that's friendship issues, they're having problems connecting with people, I ask them, how do you love? What is your language when it comes to receiving and giving appreciation? Gary Chapman is a new, what I'm saying new, but one of the primary authors that's responsible for talking about our 5 love languages. And of course, it's Valentine's Day month. So what better time to talk about the 5 love languages? In those 5 love languages, it helps us explore how we want to be loved, and also how you can give love, because relationships are give and take. And so a key thing is to know, how do I do this? Guess what? It's free. I'm sure if you Googled 5 love languages, the link to take the exam will just pop up for you. How do you start? First, you got to know what your love
Yep.
language is. So, first, get out there, be intentional, type in 5 love languages, and take the free assessment. Have your husband sit down and take it, have your best friend sit down and take it. The people that matter to you, that can, even if you're in leadership, the same love languages
Yeah.
go.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's where to start.
I love it. And the other thing I found out was I know you can Google it, and I believe there may even be like an app or something, but you're right, it's free. You just Google
Mhm.
it, it'll pop up. It doesn't take a long time, because you don't have to pull out pencil and paper. You boop, 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 put your answers in, and it tells you, like, and it ranks highest 3. Like there's 5 forms. It tells you these are, this is really where you receive it. You know. So I think that's great. And I like that you said that it's not just people, we think of relationship like partners, husband, wife, spouse, whatever, but it's relationships is when you're in it with all kinds of people. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it could be, you know, like you said, in leadership and all of that, because you need to know your coworkers and how do they receive, how do you receive if you want to do the things. So that is really good. Do you have some examples of like the different love languages, like of the different 5 love languages?
Well, let me just talk about, I guess, my love language, okay? My love
Okay.
language is is acts of service. My husband will tell you, if you want to make me smile, come in and wash the dishes without me asking. Boy, I'm gonna love on you. Whereas his love language is words of affirmation. Individuals who like words of affirmation, if he washes the dishes, shortly thereafter, I'm coming behind him, baby. I appreciate you so very much. It's what you say to them that matters. But he's also,
Mm.
in addition to being words of affirmation, physical touch. And so anytime that he does something well, if I can come and just rub his back a little bit or give somebody a high five or give him a fist bump if it's a coworker, it goes a very long way. But on the other side, of course, you know, you also have the people who like gifts. So anything that you can give them, taking
Mm.
them to lunch, if you're gonna take your coworker to lunch or your husband or your boyfriend or your girlfriend, whomever it may be, just showing them that, hey, this is how I appreciate you. And the last one, of course, is quality time. We have those people who, I don't want anything from you, just to be with you. Take me to
Mm.
dinner, sit down and watch a movie. But guess what? Those things seem small, but so many of us don't do it right when we're giving love to other people. Because we love it. We try to show love to our people in our lives how we like to receive love. So the question is, do you know the other person's love language?
I love that. Now that is, and I think that's what ends up happening sometimes in the breakdown in relationships is either one or two
Mhm.
things. One, you show them love the way that you want to be loved, or you expect for them to just love you the way that
Mm,
you want to be loved. And I
mhm.
think it's really good. Like you said, like we have couples, you have to sit down, take the test, figure out what your languages are, and then have that communication. Do you have any tips on how couples can approach this and do that so that they can, because I know if we don't do this, then other things start to break down.
Right. So again, I'm gonna keep rehearsing my favorite word, being intentional. I always tell my clients is you have to form a habit that makes your relationships a priority. So how you form a new habit is by putting it with something that you already do consistently. And so if you want to start talking about love and it's something that's tough, sitting down at the table and getting, I always tell my, get a deck of cards that have questions on it about love. And every time you're sitting down at dinner together, each of you get to ask somebody a question, especially if you have people who are more introvert in the relationship, that it's harder for them to talk about their feelings. It's hard for them to express their love language. Then you start facilitating that conversation without it being so hard, and it becomes a habit. Like I tell my kids, no cell phones at the table. Now I don't have to say it anymore. They know there's no cell phones at the table, but that's because we made it a habit. You have to make things a part of what you do to make it consistent.
And with these relationships and being intentional, having these conversations, I think it's really important because now I don't see it like you see it because people, you know, reach out to us different things, but I may see it indirectly because I'm asking the patient like, why didn't you follow through with it? And then it starts to come out a little bit. There's to have some relationship issues or whatever is going on. But if people are not having these communications, they're not having these discussions, then there starts to be a breakdown. And when you have
Mhm.
breakdown, one of the things I know happens is you start to lose intimacy first. And by intimacy, that doesn't necessarily mean sex. I said
Mhm.
intimacy and,
Mm-hmm.
and not sex. Two totally different things. But what happens is I see people lose that intimacy first, and then you're gonna eventually lose the sex. Like like if I'm not connected to you and I'm not feeling it, then that's most likely the next step of what's going to happen. So when we start to see these breakdowns, like how can we you said be, but if someone has started to have the breakdown and they're trying to be more intentional, how can they rekindle this and develop that intimacy again, get that connection back so that they can enjoy each other's company and do that? I know you mentioned like some cards and maybe trying to talk to each other that way. Like what else can people do? Because we're trying to help these families so that they can get their health back on track, get their love life together. Like I'm here for it. I want to see it.
It's the month for it. February is about love. First thing I'm
Right.
going to say is utilize a therapist. And I'm going to keep going back to that same thing. Don't expect to be an expert on something that you haven't had to learn truly about. Loving and relationships and growing and working on the challenges in relationships is not something that we're taught oftentimes. It's something that we learn, and those lessons that we learn can come from people who are also not experts. It's our friends, girl, you need to not do this. No. But when you talk to an expert, the conversations become different. So rely on the expert. You don't have to go all the time, but we have our EAPs. You get free sessions, 3 or 4 sessions a year. Ask yourself, do my insurance provide me free sessions where me and my husband can sit down and talk for someone for free for 3 sessions? At least now you get those skills that you can start building and learning how to use those cards, getting those tips on how to be consistent in your relationship. But if nothing else, you have to start first with communication. But that sounds easy, but it's difficult for people when they don't know the places to start. So start with the therapist. It's a good place.
No, and it really is because because you're saying the piece about like you can get the cards
Mm-hmm.
and you can say we're going to sit down and we're going to have dinner and all of that, but somebody could say the one thing that can this whole thing get it right off track, and then it's like I don't
Mm-hmm.
want dinner no more. I don't want the things like I don't want to deal with your little cards.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want no more questions from you. Look, I just don't. And
Mm-hmm.
you're right. Like you get with the therapist, they help you to unpack a lot of things, help you unpack these triggers that you have so that you know that this person is coming from a good place. And this is what they meant. Because sometimes when you try to have these conversations too, I start to see like there's frustration that comes out. There could be some resentment, some underlying resentment that's there. All of those things start to come out, and you bring these cards out, you might get some surface answers. Oh, okay, yeah, that was all right.
Mm-hmm.
But starting with therapists who can help both of you guys unpack yourselves and unpack each other, like as a couple, but individually, can
Mm-hmm.
really like set the tone and change and help you now use those cards and help you understand what the triggers are.
I always tell people it's the same way as if I feel sick and I Google, oh, what are the symptoms for this? The internet can tell me a lot of things. It can give me resources. But at the end of the day, if I want a definite answer, who am I going to call? I'm going to call my PCP. I'm going to go in and get a checkup. No different for your mental health. You can Google, get all these books, use all these tools. But at the end of the day, you want confirmation from someone who's been trained in helping you be better with your mental health, and that's your therapist, that's your psychologist, those are your coaches, anyone with that expert. That could be a mentor, your pastor. Like, reach out to people who are experts in healing your mind.
I love it. Experts in healing. Ooh, you just touched something. I love it. Let me ask you, are there any other tips or comments that you have for our couples that are getting ready to approach this holiday season. And I know we're coming into Valentine's Day, but even once Valentine's Day is gone, because sometimes people, we have all of the romance and on Valentine's Day, and then it starts to putter off. Like, how do we keep this intimacy going? How do we make sure that things are going in the right direction? I know you're going to say be intentional. I already know it, so people know that she's going to say it. But just what are some other what are some other tips that our couples can use, or other comments that you would like to make that they can really use some of these good tools to get them started?
In therapy, I like to use, there's an acronym that is used in the dialectical behavior therapy, and it's called Dear Man. And in that approach, it talks about the importance of being clear about what you want. And it talks about describing and expressing your emotions in a healthy way. But you have to be mindful about how you appear and how you come off to your partner. But the key thing is you promoting your relationship and making it better by communication. The key thing is communicating about what you want, because we all change. You can't expect for your partner to know what you haven't told them. A lot of times negative thoughts come, and that's not the reality. He's not listening to me. He doesn't get what I'm saying, but you haven't said it. Because oftentimes I can ask someone, he just doesn't get me. And I'll ask, well, what do you want? I don't know. Well, so how can you expect someone to figure out what you want until you truly are able to express your desires? And so again, Dear Man is an acronym. Look it up. That's definitely one about expressing your feelings and what you need. The other one is called Give. So, a relationship is not about you. So you can express what you want, but you also have to be able to give. Identify what works for your person. Be gentle, be interested in what they want at the same time, but also validate their feelings. And you do that by sitting down with that person. Here go my key word: being intentional about the time that you spend. Just watching TV together and not communicating is not truly rebuilding your relationship. What are you talking about? Are you talking about the tough stuff? Are you letting it sit on your chest? And so in therapy, those are things we talk about. Let's pull out the stuff that you have on your chest that's just been sitting there, and you're mad for a whole week and he doesn't even know. You're slamming cabinets and he has no idea why you're slamming cabinets. Who does that help? So again, communicate your feelings with your significant others is one of the key things to start working on.
These are such great tips, because I totally like understand that at a point I thought that too. It's like, well, they should know. And it's like, but how? But why? Why should they know? Like, because they love me and they should know me and they should know what I need. And it's like, that's not how it works.
It's not how it
If
works,
you tell
right?
them, they do not know. And I was like, right, that's not how it works. So I appreciate you saying that and reiterating that, because I think a lot of people, and usually it's women too, because they're like, well, he should know. I hear that a lot of times, women like, he should know. And it's like, but he doesn't. He has no idea. He thinks that everything is fine. And, I've even heard that with some couples, like some men, a wife will give them divorce papers and they're like, wait, what happened? They thought everything was until they got those papers. So you
Mhm.
actually and absolutely have to tell them and communicate. And I love what you said about not just sitting on the couch and watching TV, because that's not talking. You spend a little time together, but
Mhm.
have you talked to each other about the things that matter to move you forward and get you guys wherever it is that you want to go in your relationship? So those are awesome tips. I appreciate that. So thank you, Dr. Kerrigan, so much for joining us on today. She said now that she gave me a lot of wonderful tips on how to find, if you're looking for a psychologist, a therapist, all of that. One of the great resources is Psychology Today. Neither
Mhm.
one of us, like, it's not like, oh, okay, they're going to pay me all this money because I plugged them. No, I just know that it is a great source because you can plug in all the things. You can say, I want a man and I want him to be in this area of the country and I want him to do Christian based therapy. Like all these
Mhm.
things, you can tailor it and find your personal me. Be sure that is psychologytoday.com. So you want to go on there and look and find a therapist. You will also be able to find Dr. Deandra Bass Kerrigan on there as well. If you want
Absolutely.
her, she is that on all social media, Dr. Deanne Bass Kerrigan. So make sure that
Mhm.
you look her up because she has some tips. She has a lot of information. And I'm so thankful that she decided to spend some time with us on today so that we can help you guys get to the next level. If this was like awesome to you and you said, oh man, I learned something, I know nothing about that, be sure, like, share this with other people. Sharing is caring. So make sure that you share it with other people. You sit down and watch it with your boo. Like y'all sit down and y'all watching TV, y'all watching something else. Watch this so that you can say, okay, yeah, see, Fred, this is what I said we should be doing. This is I want to talk about this. This is why we
Mhm.
this is why we need a therapist or why I want to go see them and all of that. So that way it can help ease that conversation, help you to be able to start those discussions because overall I want for you guys to be well. Also, make sure that you subscribe, that you like, you turn on the notification bell. So that way, whenever we put out new content, you know that it's happening. You know to go ahead and say, okay, let me see what they're talking about today. So that way you don't miss out. So until next time, I hope that you are well and I will see you soon. Take care.